So this equation right here is the algebra behind the free cash flow model. So we have to think about this algebraically. When you say logically, that's what I think of. Now, that may not be what you meant, but that's where I'll start, okay? But so logically, algebraically, where does the discount rate exist in the equation? Well, it exists in the numerators.
Oh.
Right? Excuse me, the denominator, the lower half, okay? If the numerator doesn't change, but the discount rate does, then the size of the term changes, right? So let's assume the free cash flow is 100 divided by 1 plus a discount rate. And let's say that discount rate is 0.2. Well, this is a very different value. 100 divided by 1.2 is a very different value than 100 divided by 1.094, right? So as the and when the denominator gets smaller, the value of the whole term gets bigger. So think about it algebraically.
So I actually, like, that makes sense to me as well. So maybe the wrong word, like logically, like maybe conceptually it doesn't make sense because you have a lower growth rate and more time to get to a set free cash flow, but it's worth more.
Okay, so
why would you pay more for something that takes you longer to make the same amount of money?
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's assume that I'm going to receive a cash flow of 100. I'm going to get it 5 years from now. Okay? And I'm going to have to run a number here real quick just so I can make a little bit of sense. I'm going to get it 5 years from now, so 100. I got to divide that. Well, let's just say I get it a year from now. It's going to make it easier for myself. And I want to get a 20% return. Okay? So what we're about to determine is how much would I be willing to pay for it today to get that 20% return, to get that higher return. Okay? Well, $100 that I might get a year from now, discounted at a 20% rate, is going to be worth $83.33 today. That'd be the present value of that future $100 discounted at a 20% rate. So if I want to earn 20% on this transaction, I can only pay you 83 bucks for the $100 you're going to be expected to give me in a year. Are we together so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I gave you $70 for it instead, if I gave you 70 for it, excuse me, I said if you gave me 70 for it, I'm going to give it back to you as 100 later on, right? If you gave me 70 for it, then when I give you the 100 later on, am I getting more or less than a 20% return?
More.
Right. So I get a greater return when I pay less for the asset.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes sense to us. Okay. Time will complicate this issue a little bit, right? But that's just some of our math. And if I can pay less, then I'm going to get not only more of a nominal dollar value return, I'm going to get a greater percentage rate return. And now think of return and cost in the same breath as two sides of the same coin. The greater the discount rate, the lower the value of the asset today, in part because the discount rate is in the denominator, and in part because I'm willing to pay, in order to get that greater rate, I can only afford to pay less for it.
It's like it's like mortgage, like 30 years versus 10 years?
No, not really. I wish it were, Diana, but it's not. It's not. Try to think that through, and maybe we'll rehearse this again before the end of the evening together. Okay?
Sorry, my camera. Okay. So are you wanting us to make sure that the templates that we set for homework 1 are like solid, rock solid, 100% accurate? Meaning, do I make it worth it? I don't know if worth is the right word, but do I spend the time of going back and seeing maybe why my template didn't work, or should I just keep moving forward?
Bella, when you say template, do you mean the Excel file that you've created for the Excel assignment, or a different one you created for your homework?
The different one I created like for the homework. So like my own personal Excel sheet to help me figure out things a little bit quicker.
Okay. So that's up to you, by the way. I will tell you that unless it is solid, if it has rounding error problems, etc., giving you spurious outcomes, then you'll lose points on future homeworks. And points are grades. So I'm going to leave that up to you. I will tell you that if you are building the Excel assignments properly, you should be able to use them as your template. Because the information I'm giving you in these homeworks and such, you could simply plug into those spreadsheets you're creating for the Excel assignments.
Okay, thank you.
But if you got some problems you can't figure out in some of them, you know that I kind of dig hunting for those and solving them. I'm a little bit messed up that way.
I have one question regarding just turning in assignments. So when I turned in my first Excel assignment, you had mentioned to me that the metadata didn't show me as the owner, but it showed my email address. That's what came through. And you said I don't think this is you. I don't think this is somebody else, but can you just update it so it shows it's you? How do I do that? I don't know how to do that.
Let me show you. It's easier than you suppose. I'm going to share my screen again. So here we're in my spreadsheet. I go to File, and it shows me who authored this and who last modified it. And if you're not already set up as an author because of how you set your software up, you can click on Add an Author, and it'll do so.
Okay.
And it should remember and recognize you. I'm not a big software guy. I know just enough to use these things. When you set up Excel for yourself, you told it who you were, or you had the opportunity to tell it who you were. There's a profile somewhere here. And you can go back into that profile and give it your name, and then you don't have to don't have to do this.
Yeah, I think it's like somehow connected to Outlook but I don't.
Well, you're using an app rather than the software being resident on your hard drive. Is that right?
Beats me. You said that you're not a computer guru, and I'm even less than you are, Rick.
Okay, got it.
It probably has you logged into your Microsoft like OneDrive account, or if it's your Westminster email or whatever you have the license under.
Yeah, I just want to make sure because I'm going to be obviously continuing to turn in the same file because I'm building on it, so I just want to modify it going forward. So
yeah, you should be okay. You should be okay.
I have one question. Are we going to do the number 10 and 11 on the ICP, CAPM, and WAC?
Bear with me a moment and I'll tell you.
I was thinking maybe we would learn that tonight, but I'm still unsure after reading it.
I'm not going to do it tonight. I'm going to wait until we talk more rigorously about the key value driver model, which we'll do either next week or the week after. Because these two questions are related to the key value driver model. And we've spent a little bit of time there, but not as much time as I'd like in order for you to deal with these questions. Is that fair?
Yes, thank you.
I do want to show you one other thing, and that has to do with the upcoming ICP. So this ICP is called Project Investment Selection, in which I give you some text and a story, including some footnotes, okay? And then I give you a little bit of information about 3 hypothetical companies. Don Treader Enterprises, You Can't Get Enough Incorporated, and By the Way Boutiques. There actually happen to be 3 real companies, but I'm using fictitious names, okay? And some of the information on them is a little bit dated now from when I first developed these. So you're going to be asked to use in 3 different scenarios, Don Treader, You Can't Get Enough, and By the Way, you're going to be asked to answer some questions. You're going to be asked to put together a multi-column evaluation structure on Don Treader, which if you look at the numbers, you'll recognize Pasquinel Enterprises numbers. So Don Treader and Pasquinel share some of the same DNA in terms of where their numbers have come from. Okay? So you're asked to put this together, and you should be able to do so based upon the Don Treader information you're giving here. We'll come back to it in a moment. And then you're going to be asked to put together the same kind of information on You Can't Get Enough. So in the same way, different values, different time frames, different assumptions. And then you're asked to put the same kind of information together based upon By the Way Boutiques. And for each of them, by the way, you're doing present value of the discounted cash flow plus a continuing value, which you have to take the present value of, and then the present value of the discounted cash flow plus the present value of the continuing value is the value. And then you'll calculate a net present value, an internal rate of return, and a modified internal rate of return, all of which we've been over and are part and parcel of the Excel assignment that you're turning in for this week, okay? But you've got some really interesting things going on here. And you've got some interesting kind of stories happening here as well. And we'll talk about those, but they become more interesting to you as you go through the problem set. If you've structured to do one of these accurately, you've structured effectively to do all of them. And it is the purpose for you having created this week's Excel assignment, because you're using a very similar construction, aren't you? All but identical. Well, maybe different number of years, maybe different variable labels, but all but identical, okay? Let's walk through the Don Treader story real quick. No, it's a story you already recognize. Let's walk through You Can't Get Enough as a story so you can see where I'm picking out different values that then become used. Let me make this big enough so you can have a better shot of reading it. So You Can't Get Enough. Firm develops some quality food product franchises. Happens to be in the barbecue industry. I dig barbecue. In fact, by the way, I think that there is a pyramid or a little top to the food pyramid that you guys don't recognize, and it is composed of barbecue, grits, and Dr. Pepper. That is the top of the food pyramid. It even fits the top Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, don't fool yourselves. Grits, Dr. Pepper, and barbecue. Okay. So the firm has designed innovative trading and support, blah, 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 franchise opportunities. It's got a consistent growth of cash flow of 10%. So I've just given you a clue to its cash flow growth. It's had that for the following 10 years and projecting 6% beyond that point in time. So 10% for the next 10 years and then 6% beyond that point. So 10% for a 10-year explicit period, 6%, which is a big rate, for our continuation that we use in the Gordon growth model. Firm's most recent financial statements represent cash flow of $1.8 million. Well, that's the base year, right? The most recent, it's completed, it's the base year. So what year 1 be? It'll be $1.8 million times 1.1. What will year 2 be? It'll be that number times 1.1, and so on, until we get to the continuation term, or year 1 in continuation time, and we'll expand it at 6%. Firm has 15 years of financial statements representing good profits. Okay, that's interesting to me. Ownership's expanded. Well, that's interesting to me. The firm maintains capital. That's interesting. The investment bank is projecting a risk-adjusted discount rate of 12%. A risk-adjusted discount rate. So you were just given your discount rate. Okay? Use that in lieu of WACC. WACC is simply a discount rate. An investor expected return is a discount rate. Inflation, interest, hurdle rate can be discount rates. Firm is looking for $15 million of funding of $15 million. So they want somebody to buy it for $15 million. That's a cost. Market returns for similar firms are 7%. You've calculated a beta factor of 1.2. Here you have market returns and a beta factor. Those sound like some of the components to the CAPM construction of RE. I don't know if you'll need that, but it kind of sounds like that. So with all of that, I came up with this. I have $1.8 million in year 0. I expand it by 10%, expand it by 10%, and so on all the way through year 10. And then I expand that number by 6%. I go ahead and discount each of these cash flows by the discount rate, which, go back up, and I think we see a discount rate of 12%. I then do a running total. And then that gives me the present value of the discounted cash flow. I find the continuing value using the Gordon growth model. Present value of the continuing value gives me a value. And knowing that there was a $15 million potential cost, my net present value is the present value minus the cost. And that leads me to being able to calculate an IRR and a modified IRR. So here is the next problem set. However, that's all well and good. I ask you some other interesting kind of qualitative questions, and then I ask you, finally, thoughtfully consider which of the firms you might recommend for an investment and why. You're going to see when you look at the solution set which one I liked. I liked mine for my own reasons. You're going to like yours for your own reasons. We're not going to all have the same answer here, but it should make you think. Fair enough? You built the tool to do this in this week's Excel assignment. You simply have to change some of the values and expand some of the years, expand and contract some of the years of your explicit period. You built the tool to do it already. And you're going to prove to yourself some interesting things as you do this. You'll learn a few things about outcomes and to help you with some of your intuition. Okay, are you exhausted yet? I know Andrew is. Bless your heart. All right, guys, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and sign off. Hope you have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.